"Daddy, she's not breathing." When a single dad's CPR saves a billionaire CEO in the park, their worlds collide in ways no one could imagine. But as secrets, sickness, and scandal explode, will this miracle of survival create a family or tear their lives apart forever? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The early morning sun painted long shadows across Milton Park's winding paths. Jack Lawson maintained an easy jogging pace, his feet hitting the ground in a steady rhythm while his 8-year-old daughter Lily skipped beside him, her blonde ponytail bouncing with each hop. "Can we have chocolate chip pancakes when we get home, Daddy?" Lily asked, her blue eyes sparkling with hope. "Pretty please?" Jack smiled, his breath coming out in small puffs in the crisp morning air. "You know what? That sounds perfect for a Saturday morning." "With whipped cream?" Lily added, doing a little twirl as she walked. "Don't push your luck, kiddo," Jack chuckled, but his daughter's infectious smile made it hard to say no, maybe just a little. The park was quiet at this hour, with only a few other early risers sharing the paths. An elderly couple walked their golden retriever, and a young woman in expensive athletic wear stretched near a bench. The familiar sound of the central fountain's rushing water grew louder as they approached. "Race you to the fountain!" Lily called out suddenly, breaking into a run. "Hey, wait up!" Jack picked up his pace, deliberately staying just behind her. The sound of her giggles filled the morning air. As they neared the fountain, Jack noticed a woman in a tailored business suit standing at its edge. She seemed out of place in the casual park setting, checking her phone with intense focus. Something about her posture seemed off. Suddenly, the woman swayed. Her phone clattered to the ground as she pressed a hand to her chest. Before Jack could process what was happening, she crumpled to the pavement. "Daddy!" Lily's voice shot through the air, high and frightened. "Daddy! She's not breathing!" Years of volunteer firefighter training kicked in instantly. Jack sprinted the remaining distance, dropping to his knees beside the unconscious woman. Her face was pale, her lips taking on a bluish tinge. He pressed his fingers to her neck, searching for a pulse. Nothing. "Someone call 911!" he shouted to the gathering crowd. Several people already had phones out, some filming instead of helping. Jack ignored them, focusing on what needed to be done. "Lily, stand back, sweetie," he instructed firmly but gently. His daughter backed away, clutching her hands together anxiously. Jack tilted the woman's head back, checking her airway. No obstruction. He began chest compressions, counting steadily in his head. The woman's expensive suit jacket crinkled under his hands as he pressed down with steady rhythm. "Come on," he muttered, continuing compressions. "Come on, stay with us." After 30 compressions, he gave 2 rescue breaths, her chest rising slightly with each one. From the corner of his eye, he caught several flashes, cameras. Someone was taking pictures, but he couldn't spare any attention for that now. The elderly couple from earlier had moved closer, the wife holding Lily's hand while speaking quietly to her. Other park-goers formed a protective circle, though some continued to film with their phones. Jack started another round of compressions. "Help is coming," he said to the unconscious woman, though he knew she couldn't hear him. "Just hang in there." Suddenly, the woman gasped. Her eyes flew open, wide and confused. Jack quickly turned her onto her side as she coughed, helping to clear her airway. "You're okay," he assured her, his voice calm and steady. "The ambulance is on its way. Try not to move too much." The woman's dark eyes focused on him, filled with a mixture of fear and bewilderment. She tried to speak but could only manage a weak cough. "Just breathe," Jack instructed. "Nice and slow." In the distance, sirens wailed, growing louder by the second. The crowd parted as 2 paramedics rushed forward with their equipment. "She was unconscious, no pulse," Jack reported professionally. "Perform CPR. She regained consciousness about 30 seconds ago." The paramedics nodded, taking over. As they worked, one of them looked at Jack with recognition. "Good work, Lawson. Glad to see you haven't lost your touch." Jack stepped back, letting the professionals do their job. He turned to find Lily, who immediately ran into his arms. He lifted her up, holding her close as she buried her face in his neck. "Is she going to be okay, Daddy?" Lily's voice trembled. "The paramedics will take good care of her," Jack assured her, rubbing her back gently. "You did exactly the right thing, calling for help when you saw she was in trouble." More camera flashes caught his attention. A man with a professional-looking camera was taking rapid shots of the scene. Another person was live streaming on their phone, speaking rapidly about breaking news and Veronica Hale. The name hit Jack like a thunderbolt. Veronica Hale, the CEO of Hale Industries. He'd seen her face in the news often enough, but hadn't recognized her in those critical moments. No wonder there were so many cameras. The paramedics carefully loaded Miss Hale onto a stretcher. Her eyes found Jack's for a moment, something unreadable in their depths, before they whisked her into the waiting ambulance. "Daddy?" Lily's small voice brought his attention back. "I'm scared." Jack hugged her tighter, watching as the ambulance pulled away, its sirens fading into the distance. "It's okay to be scared, sweetheart. But you know what? That lady is getting the help she needs, and that's what matters." Lily nodded against his shoulder, her arm still wrapped tightly around his neck. "Can we still have pancakes?" The simple question, so innocent and normal, made Jack smile despite the intensity of the past few minutes. "You bet we can. Extra chocolate chips. I think we both earned them." They started walking back along the path, leaving behind the crowd of onlookers and the still clicking cameras. The fountain continued its steady splash, the morning sun now higher in the sky, as if nothing extraordinary had happened at all. Jack kept his daughter close, his mind replaying the events that had just unfolded. He'd acted on instinct, doing what needed to be done, just as he'd been trained. But as the adrenaline faded, the weight of what had happened, and who he had saved, began to sink in. The morning had started so normally, with just a father and daughter out for their regular weekend jog, talking about pancakes. Now, somewhere in the city, an ambulance carried one of the most powerful women in America to the hospital. A woman whose life he'd just saved, with nothing more than his training and 2 willing hands. Sunday morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows as Jack flipped pancakes on the griddle. He'd promised Lily her favorite breakfast, and after yesterday's events, keeping things normal felt important. The familiar scent of butter and vanilla filled their small kitchen while coffee brewed in the pot nearby. Lily sat at their worn wooden table, her feet swinging beneath her chair as she colored in her sketchbook. "These ones are extra fluffy, Daddy," she said without looking up from her drawing. "I can tell. That's because I'm using Grandma's secret recipe." Jack slid another golden brown pancake onto the growing stack. "Extra love in every bite." The doorbell's sudden chime made Jack jump, causing him to nearly drop his spatula. "Stay put, sweetheart," he said, turning down the heat on the stove. "I'll be right back." Mrs. Peterson from next door stood on their front porch, clutching the morning newspaper with both hands. Her gray hair was still in curlers, and she wore her usual flower-print housecoat. "Jack, have you seen this?" she asked, thrusting the paper toward him. There it was in bold, black and white. Yesterday's drama splashed across the front page. A photo showed Jack kneeling beside Veronica Hale's unconscious form, his hands positioned for chest compressions. The headline read, "Local hero saves billionaire CEO's life." "Oh boy," Jack muttered, running a hand through his disheveled brown hair. "You're famous," Mrs. Peterson beamed. "Wait until I tell my bridge club that I live next door to a hero." "I'm not a hero, Mrs. Peterson. I just did what anyone would do." Jack tried to hand the paper back, but she wouldn't take it. "Keep it, dear. I already bought 3 copies. She patted his arm. "Your Sarah would be so proud of you." Jack's throat tightened at the mention of his late wife, but he managed a small smile. "Thank you." Back in the kitchen, Lily's eyes went wide when she saw the newspaper. "Daddy, that's you!" She abandoned her coloring and rushed over to examine the front page. "Can I take it to school tomorrow?" "Let's eat breakfast first, okay? The pancakes are getting cold." But before Jack could return to the stove, the phone rang, then rang again, and again. Local news stations, the city paper. Even a morning talk show wanted to interview the hero who saved Veronica Hale. Jack kept his answers brief and polite. "No comment. Just doing what was right. Please respect our privacy." Lily watched it all with growing excitement. You're like a superhero now, Daddy, like the ones in my books. Jack knelt down to her level, placing his hands on her small shoulders. Listen, sweetie, what happened yesterday? Helping that lady in the park, that's just what good people do. It doesn't make me special. But you saved her life, Lily insisted. Like you used to do when you were a firefighter? The phone rang again. Jack unplugged it. Throughout the day, more neighbors stopped by. Some brought casseroles, as if saving someone's life warranted the same response as a death in the family. Others just wanted to shake his hand or snap a picture with their phones. Jack did his best to maintain their normal Sunday routine. They played board games, worked on Lily's homework, and ordered pizza for dinner, a special weekend treat. But every time he glanced out the window, he spotted another car driving slowly past their house, passengers craning their necks to peek in. As evening settled in, Jack flipped through channels on their small TV, each one seeming to show the same footage from the park. Amateur videos taken by bystanders showed different angles of him performing CPR. Commentators debated what this meant for Hale Industries' stock prices. Business analysts questioned why such a prominent CEO had been alone in a public park. Enough of that, Jack muttered, clicking off the TV. He turned to find Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, the newspaper clutched against her chest like a security blanket. The front-page photo was wrinkled now from her constant handling throughout the day. Jack carefully lifted his daughter, newspaper and all, and carried her to her bedroom. As he tucked her in, she stirred slightly. "Daddy?" she mumbled sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart? I don't care if you're not a superhero. You're the best daddy ever." Jack kissed her forehead, his heart full. "And you're the best daughter ever. Sweet dreams, Lily Pad." He gently tried to remove the newspaper from her grip, but she held on tight even in sleep. Jack smiled and let her keep it, switching off her bedside lamp. The glow-in-the-dark stars on her ceiling cast a soft light across her peaceful face. Back in the living room, Jack sank into his favorite armchair, exhausted. His phone screen showed 37 missed calls and dozens of unread messages. He thought about yesterday morning, how ordinary it had started. Just another weekend jog with his daughter. Now his simple life felt turned inside out, and he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Jack drummed his fingers on the steering wheel as he waited in the school drop-off line. The morning sun cast long shadows across the elementary school's brick facade, and through his rearview mirror he could see Lily in the back seat, happily swinging her feet while humming a tune. "Got your lunchbox?" Jack asked, trying to ignore the cluster of parents who had stopped their conversations to stare at his weathered pickup truck. "Yep." Lily patted her purple backpack. "And my homework, too. I told Miss Peterson I couldn't finish my reading last night because we were on TV." Jack winced. "Honey, maybe we shouldn't mention the TV thing too much." As they inched forward in line, he noticed mothers pointing and whispering behind their coffee cups. A few pulled out their phones, not even trying to be subtle as they snapped pictures. Jack slumped lower in his seat, wishing his truck wasn't quite so recognizable with its faded blue paint and small dent in the passenger door. "Daddy, why is everyone looking at us?" Lily's voice carried a note of confusion. "Sometimes people get excited about stuff they see in the news," Jack explained carefully. "But it'll blow over soon. Remember what we talked about? That helping people is normal and we shouldn't make a big deal about it," Lily recited dutifully. She leaned forward between the seats. "But Daddy, you're a hero. Like a real one." Jack's heart squeezed. "The real hero is the person who called 911, sweetie. I just happened to be there first." They reached the drop-off point, and he forced a bright smile. "Have a great day at school. Love you tons." "Love you more." Lily hopped out, her backpack bouncing as she skipped toward the entrance. Several parents immediately surrounded her, and Jack had to resist the urge to jump out and rescue her. But Lily just smiled and waved at everyone, handling the attention with far more grace than he could muster. The rest of Jack's morning passed in a blur of work calls and trying to avoid his co-workers' questions at the construction site. By late afternoon he was ready to collapse onto his couch and forget the whole weekend had ever happened. Instead, he found himself freezing halfway up his front walk, keys dangling from his hand, as a gleaming black limousine pulled up to his modest ranch house. The vehicle looked absurdly out of place next to his neighbor's rusty garden gnomes and his own untrimmed hedges. The back door opened, and Veronica Hale stepped out with the kind of elegant precision that spoke of years of practice. Her steel gray suit probably cost more than his monthly mortgage payment, but Jack couldn't help noticing how she steadied herself against the car door for just a moment, her complexion a shade too pale. "Mr. Lawson," her voice carried clearly across his small front yard. "I hope I'm not intruding." Jack found his voice. "No, not at all. I just wasn't expecting." He gestured vaguely at the limousine, which had attracted the attention of every neighbor within viewing distance. "I wanted to thank you properly." Veronica walked toward him, her heels clicking precisely on the concrete. Up close, he could see the shadows under her eyes, carefully concealed with makeup. "What you did yesterday, anyone would have done the same," Jack interrupted, then immediately felt foolish for cutting off a billionaire CEO. But Veronica's expression softened slightly. "No, Mr. Lawson, they wouldn't have. Most people would have panicked or simply called for help. You acted." She reached into her purse and withdrew an envelope. "I'd like to show my appreciation." "No." Jack's response was immediate and firm. "I mean, thank you, but no. I don't want any reward." Veronica looked genuinely surprised, as if the concept of refusing money had never occurred to her. Before she could respond, the sound of a school bus rumbling to a stop made them both turn. Lily bounded down the bus steps, then stopped short when she saw who was standing in their yard. Her eyes went wide. "You're the lady from the fountain!" "Lily," Jack started, but his daughter was already rushing forward. "Are you feeling better? Daddy said you went to the hospital. I was really scared when you weren't breathing. But Daddy knew what to do because he used to be a firefighter, even though now he builds houses instead." A strange expression crossed Veronica's face as she looked down at Lily, something between bewilderment and wonder. Yes, I'm feeling much better, thank you." "That's good. Do you want to see my treehouse? Daddy built it for me. He can build anything." Lily grabbed Veronica's hand without hesitation, and to Jack's amazement, the CEO didn't pull away. "Lily, Miss Hale probably has important meetings to get to," Jack said quickly. "Actually," Veronica said slowly, still staring at her hand clasped in Lily's, "I cleared my schedule for the afternoon. Then you have to stay for dinner." Lily bounced on her toes. "Daddy makes the best spaghetti ever, even better than the restaurant kind." Jack opened his mouth to protest, to save Veronica from having to make polite excuses, but something in her expression stopped him. For just a moment, her carefully maintained facade cracked, revealing a flash of loneliness that felt achingly familiar. "I wouldn't want to impose," Veronica said, but her tone held a note of uncertainty that seemed to surprise even her. "It's not imposing if you're invited," Lily declared with 8-year-old logic. "Right, Daddy?" Jack found himself nodding. "We'd be honored to have you, Miss Hale." "Veronica," she corrected softly, "please." An hour later, Jack still couldn't quite believe he was watching Veronica Hale, one of the most powerful CEOs in the country, sitting at his scratched kitchen table while Lily chatted about her day at school. The billionaire had shed her suit jacket, though she still looked impossibly elegant even in just her silk blouse. "And then Tommy said he saw us on TV, but I told him Daddy says we're not supposed to talk about that," Lily explained, twirling spaghetti around her fork. "Very wise of your father," Veronica commented, taking a careful bite of her own pasta. Her eyebrows rose slightly. "This island, actually incredible." "Told you," Lily beamed. "The secret is the sauce. Daddy won't tell anyone the recipe, not even me." "It's just regular spaghetti," Jack mumbled, embarrassed. "No," Veronica said firmly, "it's not." She took another bite, and suddenly a small sound escaped her. Something between a chuckle and a giggle. She looked startled by her own reaction. Lily giggled too. "You've got sauce on your chin." Veronica's hand flew to her face, and finding the small red spot, she let out a real laugh this time. The sound seemed to surprise her even more than the first, but Lily's continuing giggles were infectious. Before Jack knew it, All three of them were laughing, Veronica's refined reserve cracking completely as she accepted the paper napkin he handed her. The warm glow from the kitchen lamp cast soft shadows across the living room as Lily spread her artwork across the coffee table. Veronica Hale, still wearing her designer suit but now looking more relaxed after their simple dinner, sat cross-legged on the carpet beside her, a sight Jack never thought he'd witness. "This one's Rapunzel," Lily explained, pushing a crayon drawing forward. "See her long golden hair? And this is Sleeping Beauty in her castle. These are beautiful, Lily." Veronica's voice carried a gentleness that seemed to surprise even her. She carefully picked up each drawing, studying the details with genuine interest. "You've given them all such lovely dresses. That's because they're princesses," Lily beamed, bouncing slightly on her knees. "Daddy says I'm good at drawing dresses because I pay attention to the little things." From his position leaning against the doorframe, Jack watched the scene with quiet amazement. The sharp-suited CEO who dominated boardrooms had disappeared, replaced by someone who spoke softly and smiled easily at his daughter's artistic interpretations of fairy tales. "You know what?" Veronica leaned in conspiratorially. "I used to draw princess pictures too, when I was your age." Lily's eyes widened. "Really? Did you want to be a princess?" A shadow of something, perhaps sadness, perhaps nostalgia, flickered across Veronica's face. "I think every little girl dreams of that sometimes." "You look like a princess now," Lily declared matter-of-factly, reaching for another drawing. "Daddy, doesn't Miss Hale look like a princess?" Jack felt his cheeks warm. "Lily." "It's quite all right," Veronica laughed, but Jack noticed how the laugh seemed to catch in her throat. She pressed a hand to her chest for a moment, her smile faltering. "Are you okay, Miss Hale?" Lily asked, her small face creasing with concern. "Just a little tired, sweetheart." Veronica's voice had grown slightly strained. "I should probably be heading home." Jack stepped forward, offering his hand to help her up. As Veronica rose, her legs seemed to wobble beneath her. She grabbed his arm, and Jack felt her fingers dig into his sleeve as she struggled to steady herself. "Lily," Jack said quickly, "why don't you go get ready for bed? Brush your teeth, and I'll be up in a few minutes to read you a story." Lily looked between them, hesitating. "But Miss Hale hasn't seen my unicorn drawing yet. We can save that for next time," Veronica managed, her voice stronger but her face pale. "I promise I'll look at it then." "Promise?" Lily held up her pinky finger. Veronica linked her own pinky with Lily's, managing a warm smile. "Pinky promise." After Lily bounded up the stairs, Jack kept his steadying grip on Veronica's arm. "You're not okay," he said quietly. "And this isn't just being tired." Veronica's professional mask slipped back into place. "I'm fine, Mr. Lawson, just a long day." "With all due respect, that's not true." Jack's voice was gentle but firm. "I've seen enough medical emergencies to know when someone's in distress. Your breathing's labored, you're pale, and you nearly collapsed just now." For a long moment, Veronica said nothing. The ticking of the living room clock seemed unnaturally loud in the silence. Finally, she closed her eyes, her shoulders sagging slightly. "You're very observant, Mr. Lawson." "Jack," he corrected softly. "And yes, I am, especially when it comes to people's safety." Veronica glanced toward the stairs, making sure Lily wasn't within earshot. "I have a condition," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "A congenital heart defect that's been getting worse. The episode in the park, it wasn't just overexertion or stress." Jack felt his chest tighten with understanding. "How serious is it?" "Serious enough that if the board of directors found out, they'd force me to step down." Her eyes met his, fierce despite her obvious exhaustion. "My company is everything I've built, everything I am. I can't lose it." "But your health is my concern," she cut in, though without her usual sharpness. "Please, Jack, what happened in the park is already public knowledge. But this has to stay between us. I'm handling it. I have doctors, treatments. But if word gets out about the full extent of my condition," Jack ran a hand through his hair, conflict evident on his face. "That's a heavy secret to keep." "I know, and I wouldn't ask if." She paused, seeming to search for words, something Jack suspected didn't happen to her often. "If I hadn't seen the kind of man you are," "How you are with Lily. How you helped me without hesitation, without wanting anything in return." From upstairs came Lily's voice. "Daddy, I'm ready for my story." "Coming, sweetheart," Jack called back, then turned to Veronica. "Let me walk you to your car, at least." They moved slowly to the front door, Jack keeping a careful hand near her elbow. The night air was cool and crisp, and Veronica's driver stood waiting beside the sleek, black limousine parked in Jack's modest driveway. "Thank you," Veronica said softly. "For dinner. For Lily's drawings. For—" She gestured vaguely at his supporting arm. "Just promise me you'll be careful," Jack replied. "And that you'll call if you need help. Anytime." Veronica nodded, then carefully made her way down the porch steps to her waiting car. As the limousine pulled away, Jack remained on the porch, watching until the taillights disappeared into the darkness. The weight of Veronica's secret settled on his shoulders like a physical thing. He thought of her sitting in board meetings, making million-dollar decisions while fighting to breathe normally. He thought of Lily's innocent observation about princesses, not knowing the elegant CEO was fighting a private battle. "Daddy?" Lily's voice floated down from upstairs. "Are you coming?" "On my way," Jack called back, taking one last look at the empty street before turning to head inside. The porch light cast his shadow long across the welcome mat, and somewhere in the distance a dog barked at the night. He had saved Veronica's life once in the park, but now he carried knowledge that could destroy the life she'd built for herself. As he closed the door, the click of the latch seemed to echo with the weight of that responsibility. Morning sunlight streamed through the kitchen window as Jack helped Lily with her math homework. Numbers and worksheets were spread across the wooden table, but his mind kept drifting to Veronica's words from the night before. "Daddy, you're not listening," Lily said, tapping her pencil on the multiplication problem they were supposed to be solving. 7 times 8 Island. 56, Jack answered automatically, then blinked, forcing himself to focus on his daughter's worksheet. "Sorry, sweetie, let's try the next one together." Lily scrunched her nose. "You're thinking about Miss Hale, aren't you? Is she sick?" Jack's heart skipped a beat. Sometimes his daughter was too perceptive for her own good. "What makes you say that?" "She looked tired when she left yesterday. Like how Mommy used to look sometimes." The comparison made Jack's throat tight. He smoothed Lily's hair, buying time to choose his words carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups just get tired from working hard. Now, what's 9 times 6? Before Lily could answer, Jack's phone buzzed. An unknown number flashed on the screen. He almost let it go to voicemail, but something made him answer. "Mr. Lawson?" Veronica's voice was clear and professional, nothing like the vulnerable woman from last night. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Just helping with homework," Jack said, watching Lily work on her multiplication tables. "Is everything okay?" "Yes, There was a slight pause. "I was hoping you might come to my office today. There's something I'd like to discuss with you." Jack glanced at the clock. "I need to get Lily to school first." "Of course. How's 10 o'clock? I'll send a car." Before Jack could protest that he could drive himself, she'd already hung up. He stared at his phone, wondering what she could want to discuss. "Was that Miss Hale?" Lily asked, looking up from her homework. "Yes, sweetheart. She wants me to come to her office today." Lily's eyes widened. "The big glass building downtown? Can I come?" "Not today, kiddo. You've got school, remember?" He tapped her worksheet. "And these multiplication tables won't solve themselves." After dropping Lily at school, Jack found himself in the back of a black town car, feeling out of place in his best button-down shirt and khakis. The driver navigated through downtown traffic while Jack watched the Hale Industries building grow larger through the window. He'd seen it countless times before, but he'd never imagined he'd be going inside. The lobby was all marble and steel, with a massive fountain in the center that made Jack think of the park where he'd first found Veronica. Security guards checked his ID, and a sleek elevator whisked him to the top floor. Veronica's assistant, a sharp-eyed woman in a tailored suit, led him through a maze of glass-walled offices. "Miss Hale is expecting you," she said, opening a door into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows. Veronica stood at her desk, looking more like the powerful CEO he'd seen in news photos than the woman who'd laughed over spaghetti in his kitchen. But when she smiled, he caught a glimpse of that same warmth. "Jack, thank you for coming." She gestured to a leather chair. "Please, sit." He lowered himself into the chair, trying not to feel intimidated by the spectacular city view behind her. "Your office island. Impressive. It's just a room with a good view." She sat down across from him, folding her hands on the desk. "I've been thinking about what happened in the park, about what you did for me." "Anyone would have helped," Jack said automatically. "No, they wouldn't have. Most people would have frozen, called 911, and hoped for the best." She leaned forward slightly. "You acted. You knew exactly what to do, and you did it without hesitation." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "I was a volunteer firefighter. The training just kicked in." "Exactly." Veronica pulled a folder from her desk. "I've done some research on you, Jack. Your service record, your reputation in the community, the way you've raised Lily since your wife passed." She paused, her expression softening. "You're exactly the kind of person I need at the Hale Foundation." "The foundation?" Jack blinked, caught off guard. "Your charitable organization?" "Yes. We fund everything from medical research to community outreach programs. But lately, I've felt we're losing touch with the people we're supposed to help." She opened the folder. "I want to create a new position. Director of Community Engagement. Someone who understands real people, real needs. Someone with integrity and compassion." Jack's mouth felt dry. "And you want me?" "The salary would be substantial," she continued, sliding a paper across the desk. "Full benefits, flexible hours, so you can be there for Lily." Jack stared at the number on the page, his heart racing. It was more than triple what he currently made. The kind of money that could secure Lily's college fund, maybe even buy a house in a better school district. "I don't know anything about running a charitable foundation," he said honestly. "You know about helping people, the rest can be learned." Veronica's voice grew quieter. "After what happened? What you know about my condition, I need someone I can trust, someone who sees me as a person, not just a CEO." Jack looked up from the contract, studying her face. Behind the powerful exterior, he saw the same vulnerability from last night, the same loneliness. "Can I think about it?" he asked. "Of course." She pushed the contract toward him. "Take it home, review it, discuss it with Lily." Jack stood, picking up the thick document. "Thank you for thinking of me." "Thank you for saving my life," Veronica replied simply. Minutes later, Jack stood on the sidewalk outside the towering Hale Industries building, contract in hand. He felt small against the gleaming glass structure reaching into the sky, but the weight of the opportunity in his hands was anything but small. Looking down at the contract, he thought of Lily's future, of Veronica's trust, and of the chance to make a real difference in people's lives. Jack tugged at his navy blue tie, trying to make it lie flat against his crisp white shirt. The thrift store suit he'd bought yesterday felt stiff and foreign, like borrowed skin. He stood in the gleaming lobby of the Hale Foundation building, clutching his worn leather briefcase, a graduation gift from his late wife Sarah. The security guard, who'd watched him fidget with his visitor's badge for the past 5 minutes, finally took pity. 11th floor, sir. Miss Hale's assistant will meet you there." The elevator ride felt endless. Jack's reflection in the polished doors showed a man trying hard to belong in a world that wasn't his. His carefully combed hair and clean-shaven face couldn't hide the uncertainty in his eyes. The doors opened to reveal a bustling office floor. Men and women in designer suits strode purposefully past, their shoes clicking against the marble floors. Jack felt like a house sparrow that had wandered into a gathering of peacocks. "Mr. Lawson?" A familiar face appeared, Veronica's assistant from his previous visit. "I'm Margaret. Please follow me." She led him through the maze of glass-walled offices and open workspaces. People looked up from their computers, their curious glances making Jack's collar feel even tighter. Veronica emerged from a conference room, commanding attention without effort in her tailored charcoal suit. "Jack, welcome." Her smile seemed genuine, though tired. "Everyone, a moment, please." The office hushed. Dozens of faces turned toward them. "This is Jack Lawson, our new Community Outreach Coordinator." Veronica's voice carried easily across the space. "He brings valuable experience in emergency services and a fresh perspective on community needs. Please, make him feel welcome." The introduction was brief and professional, exactly what Jack had asked for. No mention of the park incident or CPR, just a chance to start fresh. Margaret showed him to his office, a modest but bright space with a window overlooking the city. "Your computer's set up. HR sent the orientation materials to your email. The team meeting is at 10. Jack set his briefcase on the desk, taking a deep breath. The office felt enormous, compared to his old firefighter's locker. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and introductions. His team, 3 young analysts who managed relationships with various charities, walked him through their current projects. Jack's head spun with statistics and spreadsheets, but underneath the numbers he began to see the real impact. "We helped fund 20 new emergency response vehicles last quarter," explained Trevor, one of the analysts. "And the children's hospital renovation is ahead of schedule." "The hospital expansion?" Jack leaned forward. "The one with the new pediatric wing?" "Yes, that's one of Miss Hale's priority projects." Jack remembered taking Lily there for a broken arm last year. The old waiting room had been cramped and outdated. Now he was looking at plans for a space filled with light and hope. At precisely noon, Margaret appeared at his door. "Miss Hale requests you join her for lunch." The executive dining room occupied half of the 12th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered spectacular views of the city. Jack followed Margaret to a corner table where Veronica sat with several senior executives. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. "Jack, please." Veronica gestured to the empty chair beside her. "Everyone, shift down one seat." A silver-haired man in an expensive suit reluctantly moved, creating space for Jack. The tension was thick enough to cut with the gleaming silverware laid out before him. "How's your first morning been?" Veronica asked, ignoring the stares from her executive team. "Enlightening," Jack replied honestly. "I had no idea the Foundation's reach was so extensive. Most people don't." She passed him a menu. "The salmon is excellent today." Jack glanced at the prices and nearly choked. The salmon cost more than he usually spent on groceries for a week. "I brought a sandwich, actually." "Nonsense. This is a working lunch. The Foundation's treat." Her tone left no room for argument. Gradually, conversations resumed around the table. Jack noticed how the executives deferred to Veronica, hanging on her every word. But there was something else in their glances. Concern, perhaps? Did they know about her condition? "The Children's Hospital project," Jack said, steering toward safer ground. "My daughter Lily was treated there last year. The improvements will mean a lot to families." Veronica's expression softened at the mention of Lily. "How is she adjusting to your new schedule?" "She's excited. The after-school program is working out well." Jack smiled, remembering Lily's enthusiasm that morning. The autumn sunshine spilled across the community park where colorful tents and booths dotted the grass. Children's laughter mixed with music from a small band playing near the playground. Jack adjusted his casual weekend jacket, still not used to attending these kinds of corporate events, even if this one was meant for families. Lily bounced beside him in her favorite purple dress, her eyes wide at all the activities spread before them. "Look, Daddy, they're painting!" She pointed to a white tent where kids sat at long tables covered in art supplies. "Would you like to join them?" a familiar voice asked from behind. Jack turned to see Veronica approaching them. She looked different today, more relaxed in dark jeans and a cream sweater instead of her usual business attire. Her long dark hair was loose around her shoulders, and she wore minimal makeup. "Miss Veronica!" Lily exclaimed, running to give her a hug. Jack noticed how naturally Veronica bent down to receive it, despite her usual reserved demeanor. "I didn't expect to see you here," Jack said. "I thought these events usually just had the Foundation staff." Veronica's eyes sparkled. "Well, I decided to make an exception today. Besides, how could I miss seeing my favorite artist?" She winked at Lily, who beamed at the attention. They walked together to the art tent, where volunteers had set up painting stations. Each spot had blank canvases, brushes, and little cups of bright acrylic paint. Lily immediately claimed 3 chairs at the end of a table. "You have to paint too," she insisted, patting the seats on either side of her. Jack sat down, watching with amusement as Veronica hesitated before carefully lowering herself into the remaining chair. She stared at the blank canvas like it was a challenging business proposal. "When was the last time you painted?" Jack asked, noting her expression. "I believe I was about Lily's age," Veronica admitted, picking up a brush as if it might bite her. Lily giggled. "It's easy. Look." She dipped her brush in yellow paint and made bold strokes across her canvas. "I'm making a sunshine family." Jack started working on what he hoped would look like a decent tree, while Veronica tentatively chose blue paint. Her first careful line wavered across the canvas. "No, no, Miss Veronica," Lily said with all the authority of an 8-year-old art expert. "You have to use more paint. Like this." She demonstrated with a thick swoosh of orange. Veronica's attempt to follow Lily's instruction resulted in a blob of blue that definitely wasn't her intention. Her shocked expression at the mess made Lily burst into peals of laughter. "It's perfect," Lily declared between giggles. "It looks like a funny cloud." To Jack's surprise, Veronica started laughing too. Not her usual polite chuckle, but real, uninhibited laughter that made her whole face light up. He found himself staring, caught off guard by how young and carefree she looked in that moment. Several camera flashes went off nearby. Jack spotted photographers from local papers capturing the scene, the billionaire CEO painting badly and laughing with a little girl. But for once, Veronica didn't seem to notice or care about the attention. "Well, if it's a cloud," Veronica said, still smiling, "then it needs some rain." She added purple drops falling from her blue blob, making Lily dissolve into giggles again. They spent the next hour painting, with Lily offering increasingly elaborate advice, and Veronica's artwork becoming more adventurous, if not more skilled. Jack found himself relaxing, enjoying the simple pleasure of creating something together, even if none of their masterpieces would ever hang in a gallery. Other families at the event started drifting over, drawn by the sound of Lily's laughter and Veronica's surprising presence. Instead of stiffening up as she usually did around crowds, Veronica remained focused on their little group, asking Lily serious questions about her artistic choices and defending her own abstract creations with mock dignity that made Lily laugh even harder. "Look, Daddy!" Lily held up her finished painting. "It's us at the park." She'd painted 3 figures, holding hands near what appeared to be the fountain where they'd first met Veronica. Jack felt his throat tighten as he noticed how Lily had painted Veronica holding her other hand in the picture. He glanced at Veronica, who was studying the painting with an expression he couldn't quite read. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Veronica said softly, touching Lily's shoulder. "You've captured us perfectly." They stayed until Lily had created 3 more paintings, each one featuring the 3 of them in different scenes: at the park, having dinner, and one that appeared to be them flying through space with unicorns. Veronica insisted on keeping one for her office, carefully writing Lily's name and the date on the back. As the afternoon light began to fade, Jack noticed Veronica trying to hide her fatigue. "We should probably head home," he said, giving her an understanding look. "It's almost dinner time." "Already?" Lily pouted, but began gathering her remaining paintings. Veronica helped her wrap them carefully in paper. "Thank you for teaching me how to paint today," she told Lily seriously. "I clearly needed the help." Lily hugged her again. "You should come have pancakes with us next weekend. Daddy makes the best pancakes on Saturdays. He puts chocolate chips in them and everything." Jack watched Veronica's face soften. "That sounds wonderful, sweetheart, but I wouldn't want to impose." "You wouldn't be," Jack heard himself saying. "We'd love to have you." Now, driving home in their old sedan, Jack listened to Lily chattering excitedly in the back seat. She hadn't stopped talking about Veronica since they'd said goodbye. "And did you see her cloud painting, Daddy? It was so silly. Can we put my paintings on the fridge? And can we make blueberry pancakes when Miss Veronica comes? Those are my favorite." "We'll see, sweetie," Jack said, his hands tightening slightly on the steering wheel as warmth and worry battled in his chest. Warmth, at how natural it had felt, the 3 of them laughing and creating together. Worry about what it might mean that his daughter was already so attached that he himself was starting to feel. Miss Veronica looks pretty when she laughs, Lily continued dreamily. Like a real princess. Can she come over every weekend? The old leather photo album felt heavy in Jack's hands as he settled onto his worn couch. The house was quiet except for the soft hum of the heating system. He'd just tucked Lily into bed, her breathing now steady and peaceful down the hall. Jack ran his fingers over the album's cover, brushing away a thin layer of dust. He hadn't looked at these photos in months. Maybe it was today at the art booth, watching Lily laugh with Veronica, that made him feel ready to face these memories again. He opened the album carefully. The first photo showed Sarah, his late wife, holding newborn Lily in the hospital. Her smile was radiant despite her exhaustion. Jack's throat tightened as he traced the edge of the photograph. "I wish you could see her now," he whispered to the image of Sarah. "She's getting so big, so smart, just like you." The next pages held snapshots of their life together, family picnics, birthday parties, ordinary moments that had become precious treasures. Jack paused at a photo of Sarah and Lily finger painting, their faces speckled with bright colors. It reminded him of today, watching Veronica awkwardly trying to paint with Lily at the community event. His phone buzzed suddenly, making him jump. Veronica's name lit up the screen. Jack hesitated for a moment before answering. "Hello? Jack? I hope I'm not calling too late." Veronica's voice was softer than usual, missing its typical businesslike edge. "No, not at all. I'm just..." He glanced at the photo album. "Just looking through some old pictures." "Oh, I'm sorry. I can call another time. Please, stay," Jack said quickly, surprising himself. "I'd like the company." A pause stretched between them, comfortable rather than awkward. "I wanted to thank you for today," Veronica said finally. "I can't remember the last time I laughed like that. Lily has such a wonderful spirit." Jack smiled, remembering how his daughter had convinced the usually pristine CEO to finger paint. "She has a way of bringing out the best in people." "Like her father," Veronica said quietly. Jack's heart skipped a beat. He closed the photo album, laying it beside him on the couch. "I'm nothing special, Veronica. Just trying my best." "That's exactly what makes you special, Jack. Do you know how rare genuine people are in my world?" Her voice caught slightly. "Sometimes I feel like I'm surrounded by mirrors, everyone reflecting what they think I want to see." The vulnerability in her tone made Jack's chest ache. "Must be lonely. It island." She took a shaky breath. "The board members, the executives, they see the CEO, the hail name, the fortune. Nobody sees all me." "I see you," Jack said simply. Another pause, this one filled with unspoken understanding. "These photos I'm looking at?" Jack found himself saying, "They're of Sarah, Lily's mother." Today was the first time in ages I've heard Lily laugh the way she used to with her mom. "Tell me about Sarah," Veronica said gently. Jack leaned back on the couch, phone pressed to his ear. "She was light. That's the best way I can describe her. She could walk into a room and everything would feel brighter." His voice grew thick with emotion. "She loved finger painting with Lily. They'd make the biggest mess, but Sarah never cared. She'd just laugh and add more colors. She sounds wonderful." She was. Jack wiped his eyes with his free hand. "When she got sick, it happened so fast. 1 month she was painting with Lily, the next." He trailed off. "I'm so sorry, Jack." Veronica's words carried genuine empathy. "I know what it's like to put on a brave face when your heart is breaking." "Your heart condition?" Jack asked softly. "Yes." She sighed. "The doctors say I need to slow down, take better care of myself. But my whole life has been about pushing harder, reaching higher. I don't know how to be any other way." "Maybe that's why we crossed paths," Jack said. "To remind each other there's more to life than just surviving." "Like finger painting." He could hear the smile in her voice. "Exactly like finger painting." They fell into comfortable silence again. Jack sank deeper into the couch cushions, feeling lighter somehow. "Jack? Thank you for seeing me." His eyes grew heavy as warmth spread through his chest. "Thank you for letting me." They stayed on the phone, talking softly about nothing and everything, childhood memories, funny stories about Lily, hopes and fears they'd never shared with anyone else. Jack's responses grew shorter as exhaustion crept in, but he couldn't bring himself to end the call. The last thing he remembered was Veronica's gentle voice telling him about her favorite constellations as a child. The phone slipped slightly in his grasp as he drifted off, her words becoming part of his dreams, like stars scattered across his consciousness. Jack stared at his phone, reading Veronica's text message for the 5th time. The words, "Annual Hale Industries Charity Gala," made his stomach twist into knots. His thumbs hovered over the keyboard, unsure how to respond. "Daddy, what's wrong?" "Your face looks funny," Lily said from her spot at the kitchen table, where she was coloring. "Miss Veronica invited us to a fancy party," Jack explained, tugging at his collar even though he was just wearing his regular t-shirt. "A very fancy party." Lily's eyes lit up. "Like Cinderella's ball?" "Something like that, sweetheart." Jack ran a hand through his hair. "But we don't exactly have glass slippers or fairy godmothers." His phone buzzed again. Another message from Veronica. "Don't worry about a thing. Sarah from my office will help with all the arrangements." As if on cue, the doorbell rang. Jack opened it to find a young woman with a warm smile and an iPad in hand. "Hi, I'm Sarah Chen, Miss Hale's executive assistant. May I come in?" Sure." Jack stepped aside, feeling immediately underdressed next to Sarah's crisp blazer and pencil skirt. Sarah's efficiency was impressive. Within minutes, she had a tailor on video call, measuring Jack through the screen. "Hold your arms out like this," she demonstrated. "The tuxedo will be delivered tomorrow for final adjustments." "Tuxedo?" Jack's voice cracked. "And for the young lady," Sarah turned to Lily with a conspirator's smile. "Miss Hale specifically requested we visit her favorite children's boutique. Would you like that?" Lily bounced on her toes, nodding enthusiastically. The next few days passed in a blur of preparations. Jack learned things he never thought he'd need to know. The difference between a bow tie and a cummerbund, how to properly fold a pocket square, which fork to use for which course. Finally, the evening of the gala arrived. Jack adjusted his bow tie for the 100th time as their appointed car pulled up to the Grand Plaza Hotel. The building towered above them, its windows gleaming like diamonds in the twilight. "Daddy, stop fidgeting," Lily giggled. She twirled in her pale blue dress, looking every bit the princess she felt like. Her hair had been done in elegant curls, with tiny crystal clips that caught the light. "Sorry, sweetheart." Jack took a deep breath. "Ready?" Lily grabbed his hand. "Ready?" They walked through the grand entrance, where uniformed staff directed them to the ballroom. Jack's footsteps faltered at the doorway. The room was enormous, dripping with crystal chandeliers, and filled with what seemed like hundreds of people in expensive evening wear. "Jack! Lily!" Veronica's voice cut through his panic. She appeared before them, radiant in a deep burgundy gown that swept the floor. Her smile was genuine, reaching all the way to her eyes. "You both look wonderful." "You look like a real princess," Lily exclaimed. Veronica laughed, the sound drawing warm looks from nearby guests. "Thank you, sweetheart. Would you like to see the chocolate fountain?" Before Jack could protest, Veronica had taken Lily's hand and was leading them through the crowd. People parted naturally for her, though many turned to stare and whisper. Jack caught fragments of conversation. "That's him, the one who saved her, single father." Quite romantic. The evening progressed more smoothly than Jack had feared. The food was incredible, even if he couldn't name half the dishes. Lily charmed everyone around their table, and Veronica kept close, making sure they were comfortable. Then came the speeches. Jack's heart nearly stopped when Veronica stepped up to the podium, the spotlight catching the diamonds at her throat. "Tonight is about more than raising money," she began, her voice clear and strong. "It's about recognizing everyday heroes. 2 months ago, I experienced firsthand what it means to be saved by a stranger's kindness." She turned toward their table, and Jack felt the weight of hundreds of eyes following her gaze. Jack Lawson didn't know who I was when he performed CPR that morning in the park. He didn't do it for recognition or reward. He did it because helping others is simply who he island. Veronica's voice softened. His daughter Lily shows the same beautiful spirit. "They've taught me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the capacity of one's heart to care for others. Jack blinked rapidly, feeling moisture in his eyes. Lily squeezed his hand under the table. Please join me in honoring Jack and Lily Lawson, who remind us that heroes walk among us every day. The applause was thunderous. Jack stood awkwardly as Veronica gestured for him to join her. Lily bounced ahead, completely at ease in the spotlight. After the speeches, the orchestra began playing soft music. Couples moved onto the dance floor, swaying elegantly beneath the chandeliers. "May I have this dance?" Veronica appeared at Jack's elbow, extending her hand. Jack swallowed hard. "I should warn you, I only know basic steps. That's all we need." Her smile was gentle, understanding. He took her hand, and they moved onto the dance floor. Jack was acutely aware of her closeness, the warmth of her hand in his, the subtle scent of her perfume. They moved slowly, and he gradually relaxed into the rhythm. "Thank you," he murmured. "For what?" "For making Lily feel like a princess tonight. For not letting me hide in a corner. For—" He trailed off, not sure how to express everything he felt. Veronica's eyes softened. "Thank you for saying yes to this evening, for letting us into your world as much as you've stepped into mine." Near the edge of the dance floor, Lily watched them with shining eyes, her hands clasped under her chin. She swayed to the music, wearing the biggest smile Jack had seen since they'd lost her mother. The chandeliers sparkled overhead like stars, casting warm light over the dancers. For just this moment, Jack let himself forget about their different worlds, about tomorrow's responsibilities, about all the reasons this shouldn't work. He simply danced, holding Veronica close, while his daughter beamed at them like they were characters in her favorite fairy tale. The morning sun cast long shadows through the glass walls of Hale Industries' executive floor. Veronica stood at the window of the conference room, her back straight and shoulders squared, though exhaustion tugged at her edges. The city sprawled below, a maze of streets and buildings that usually made her feel powerful. Today, they just reminded her how far she could fall. Behind her, the board members filed in one by one. Their leather chairs creaked as they settled around the massive mahogany table. She could feel their eyes on her back, calculating and cold. "Good morning," she said, turning to face them with practiced composure. Her heels clicked against the polished floor as she took her seat at the head of the table. "Miss Hale," Richard Morton, the lead director, spoke first. His silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses gave him a grandfatherly appearance that belied his ruthless nature. "We've called this meeting to discuss some concerns." In the hallway outside, Jack was delivering reports to Sarah when he heard raised voices through the supposedly soundproof walls. He paused, recognizing Veronica's tone, sharp and defensive in a way he'd never heard before. "My personal life is not up for discussion." Veronica's voice carried clearly now, someone having left the door slightly ajar. "When it affects company stability, it absolutely is our concern," Morton replied. "Your very public association with this former firefighter and his daughter." "Jack Lawson saved my life," Veronica cut in. "He's proven himself invaluable to our foundation's work." Another board member, Patricia Walsh, spoke up. "The market responds to perception, Veronica, and the perception is that you're becoming erratic. First, the dramatic collapse in the park. Then taking on this complete stranger in a high-level position, the photos of you painting with his child at community events." Jack felt his face grow hot. He knew he should walk away, but his feet remained rooted to the spot. "The foundation's numbers have never been better," Veronica countered. "Engagement is up, donations have increased." "And your health?" Morton interrupted. "Don't think we haven't noticed the signs. The canceled meetings, the early departures. How pale you've been looking lately." A heavy silence fell. Jack held his breath. "I don't know what you're implying," Veronica said, but her voice had lost some of its steel. "We're implying that you're hiding something serious from this board," Walsh stated flatly. "Something that could impact shareholder confidence if it became public knowledge." Jack heard papers shuffling. Then Morton's voice again. "We have a responsibility to this company's stability. If you're unwell, I am perfectly capable of running this company," Veronica snapped. "The same way I have for the past 15 years. Then you won't object to a full medical examination, Morton suggested smoothly. Just to put our minds at ease. Another silence stretched out. Jack could picture Veronica's face, the way she got when she was backed into a corner. Chin lifted, eyes blazing, but with that flicker of fear she thought no one could see. "This meeting is over," Veronica declared. Chairs scraped against the floor. Jack quickly moved away from the door, pretending to be absorbed in his paperwork as board members streamed out. Their faces were masks of corporate displeasure, but he caught fragments of their whispered conversations. "A liability to the company. Need contingency plans. Can't hide it forever." He waited until they had all disappeared down the hallway before glancing toward Veronica's office. The frosted glass doors were closed, but through them he could make out her silhouette at her desk. After a few minutes of internal debate, he knocked softly and entered. The vast office, usually so imposing with its modern art and city views, felt smaller somehow. Veronica sat in her large leather chair, one hand pressed against her chest as if to keep her heart from escaping. She looked up as he approached, and for once didn't try to hide her exhaustion. Her face was pale, making the shadows under her eyes more pronounced. The morning light caught the silver threading through her dark hair, and Jack was struck by how vulnerable she appeared. Without a word, he crossed to her desk and gently took her hand. Her fingers were cold against his palm, but they curled into his grip like she had been waiting for someone to reach out. They sat in silence, the city humming far below, while the morning sun climbed higher in the sky and cast its warm light across their joined hands. Neither of them mentioned the board meeting. Neither of them had to. In that quiet moment, they understood each other perfectly. The weight of secrets, the fear of falling, and the simple comfort of not being alone. The morning sun filtered through the kitchen windows of Jack's modest home, casting warm patches of light across the worn linoleum floor. Veronica stood in the doorway, looking slightly out of place in her designer jeans and cashmere sweater. But her usual corporate mask had softened into genuine curiosity. "Welcome to Pancake Central," Jack said with a welcoming smile, gesturing to the organized chaos of mixing bowls, flour, and various toppings spread across the counter. "Lily's been talking about this all week." Lily bounced on her toes near the stove, her hair in slightly messy pigtails. "Miss Veronica, Daddy makes the best pancakes ever. You get to flip them yourself." Veronica hesitated, looking at the griddle like it might bite. "I've never actually made pancakes before." Jack raised his eyebrows. "Never? Well, then you're in for a treat. Lily's our resident expert teacher, aren't you, sweetheart?" Lily nodded seriously, taking Veronica's hand and pulling her toward the counter. "First, you need an apron. Even grown-ups make messes." She handed Veronica a flour-dusted apron covered in cartoon cats. Veronica carefully tied it around her waist, smoothing it with slightly trembling hands. "I manage multi-million-dollar deals, but somehow this feels more daunting." "It's easy," Lily assured her. "Daddy already mixed the batter. You just pour it like this." She demonstrated with a small ladle, creating a wobbly circle on the griddle. Jack watched as Veronica concentrated intently on pouring her first pancake, her usually perfect posture bent forward in focus. The batter spread into something resembling an amoeba rather than a circle. "That's unique," Veronica said, frowning at her creation. Lily giggled. "It looks like a cloud. Now we wait for the bubbles." They worked together, taking turns at the griddle. Veronica's first attempt at flipping ended with half the pancake folded over on itself. Her second flew partially off the spatula. But by her third try, she managed a decent flip, earning an enthusiastic cheer from Lily. "Look at that," Jack praised, sliding plates onto the small kitchen table. "You're a natural." Veronica's face lit up with unexpected pride. It only took 3 casualties to get there. They settled around the table, a cozy scene that felt worlds away from corporate boardrooms and business meetings. Lily insisted on serving Veronica first, carefully arranging strawberries into a smile on top of her pancakes. "Thank you, Lily," Veronica said softly, watching the little girl beam at her handiwork. "It's beautiful." As they ate, Lily chattered about her upcoming school project, a diorama about the solar system. "Miss Veronica, did you know Jupiter has 79 moons? That's so many moons." "Actually, Veronica dabbed her mouth with a paper napkin. I did a project about Jupiter when I was about your age. Would you like some help with yours? Lily's eyes widened. Really? Can we start now? Jack gathered the dishes, watching as Lily led Veronica to the living room where her craft supplies were spread out on the coffee table. Shoe boxes, styrofoam balls, and glitter threatened to overtake the small space. Now, if Jupiter is this size, Veronica held up a larger styrofoam ball, then its moons would need to be much smaller. She helped Lily measure and mark proportions, explaining scale in terms the 8-year-old could understand. Hours slipped by as they worked. Veronica's perfectly manicured nails became spotted with paint, and a streak of glitter graced her cheek. She didn't seem to notice or care. Instead, she laughed freely when Lily insisted on naming each of Jupiter's largest moons they crafted. Can we play Candyland while the paint dries? Lily asked, carefully setting aside their creation. I haven't played that in. Veronica paused. I'm not sure I ever have. Then you definitely have to. Lily pulled out the worn board game box from a shelf. It's the rules. Jack joined them on the floor, watching as Lily explained the simple rules to Veronica with the patience of a tiny teacher. Soon, they were drawing cards and moving pieces, Veronica's competitive nature showing through as she groaned dramatically at landing on a licorice space that sent her backward. I negotiate billion-dollar contracts, she said with mock seriousness as Lily's piece approached the finish. How am I losing at Candyland? Lily crossed the finish line with a victory dance, and Veronica applauded genuinely. Well played, Miss Lawson. You're clearly the superior strategist. The afternoon light had begun to fade when Veronica finally glanced at her watch. Oh, I didn't realize how late it's gotten. I should go. Something flickered across her face. Reluctance, perhaps, or longing. She stood slowly, brushing glitter from her clothes. Jack helped her gather her things while Lily carefully wrapped up a slightly misshapen pancake in plastic wrap. For later, she insisted, pressing it into Veronica's hands. Because you made it yourself. Veronica clutched the humble package like it was precious. Thank you, Lily. I'll treasure it. At the door, Lily threw her arms around Veronica's waist in a tight hug. Please come back soon, she whispered, face pressed against Veronica's sweater. Veronica's eyes filled with tears as she hugged Lily back. A single drop escaped, tracking through the glitter on her cheek, but her smile was radiant. Jack sat at his desk in the Foundation's office, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he reviewed grant proposals. The afternoon sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across stacks of paperwork. He'd grown comfortable in this space over the past weeks, though the leather chair still felt too fancy for a former firefighter. He checked his phone, a text from Lily about her art class project. A small smile crossed his face as he typed back a quick response. The quiet afternoon seemed perfectly normal until shouting erupted down the hallway. Call 911. Someone get help. Jack's head snapped up, his firefighter instincts kicking in instantly. The voice had come from the main boardroom. His heart dropped. Veronica had mentioned a critical presentation to the board today. He bolted from his chair, papers scattering as he rushed toward the commotion. Other employees were emerging from their offices, faces worried and confused. Jack pushed past them, his footsteps echoing against the marble floors. The boardroom doors were flung wide open. Inside, chaos reigned. Veronica lay crumpled beside the podium, her presentation slides still glowing on the screen behind her. Board members stood frozen in their expensive suits, while her assistant knelt beside her, frantically checking for a pulse. Move back, give her space, Jack commanded, his crisis training taking over. He dropped to his knees beside Veronica's still form. Her face was ghostly pale, her breathing shallow and irregular. Has anyone called emergency services? They're on their way, someone answered. Jack loosened Veronica's silk scarf, checking her vital signs. Her pulse was there but weak and erratic. He cradled her head gently, his other hand clasping hers. Veronica, can you hear me? Her eyelids fluttered, but didn't open. Whispers rippled through the gathered crowd. Jack caught fragments of shocked conversations. Her heart condition. The board wasn't told. How long has she been hiding this? He glanced up to see several board members huddled in the corner, their faces dark with concern, but not for Veronica. They were already on their phones, damage control in full swing. One of them, a sharp-featured man Jack recognized as Trevor Phillips, was recording everything on his phone. The paramedics arrived within minutes, their efficient movements clearing the room. As they transferred Veronica onto a stretcher, Phillips stepped forward. "This is deeply troubling. The board should have been informed of any health issues affecting company leadership." Jack's jaw clenched. "Her health isn't your primary concern right now." "On the contrary," Phillips replied coldly. "The stability of Hale Industries affects thousands of employees and millions in shareholder value. We'll need to call an emergency session immediately." Before Jack could respond, camera flashes began popping through the boardroom windows. Somehow, the press had already gotten wind of the situation. Reporters were gathering on the street below, their cameras trained on the building's entrance. The paramedics wheeled Veronica toward the private elevator. Jack moved to follow, but Phillips caught his arm. "Mr. Lawson, as a Foundation employee, you should remain here. This is a corporate matter now." Jack yanked his arm free. "This isn't about corporate protocol. This is about a human being who needs support." He hurried after the stretcher, ignoring the buzz of phones and the mounting whispers. In the elevator, he held Veronica's hand while the paramedics worked, monitoring her vitals and starting an IV. Her fingers were cold in his grasp. They emerged through a private exit, avoiding the press, but Jack could already see news vans arriving. His phone buzzed continuously. Messages from concerned colleagues, from Lily's babysitter, from reporters seeking comment. The ride to the hospital passed in a blur of sirens and medical terminology. Jack answered questions about Veronica's condition, sharing what little he knew about her heart problems. The guilt of breaking her confidence weighed heavily, but her life mattered more than her secrets now. At the hospital, they rushed her into the cardiac unit. Jack paced the private waiting room, making necessary calls. First to Lily's babysitter, arranging for her to stay late. Then to Veronica's personal assistant, who was already dealing with a media firestorm. "The board's called an emergency meeting," the assistant informed him, voice tight with stress. "They're citing breach of fiduciary duty, claiming she endangered the company by concealing her condition. Phillips is pushing for immediate suspension of her duties." Jack ran a hand through his hair, frustration building. "They're moving against her while she's fighting for her life? Welcome to corporate politics, Mr. Lawson." Hours passed in a sterile haze of coffee cups and hushed conversations with medical staff. Outside the hospital, reporters gathered like vultures, their cameras ready to capture any detail of the fallen CEO's condition. Jack's phone showed news alerts with headlines growing increasingly sensational. "Hale Industries CEO collapses. Secret illness revealed. Board questions. Leadership as health crisis unfolds. Sources claim months of hidden heart condition." Finally, late into the evening, they allowed him into Veronica's room. The mighty CEO looked small and vulnerable in the hospital bed, surrounded by beeping monitors and IV lines. Her makeup had been cleaned away, her designer clothes replaced by a plain hospital gown. Without her usual armor of corporate power, she seemed achingly human. Jack sank into the chair beside her bed, taking her hand once more. The steady rhythm of the heart monitor filled the silence. Outside the door, he could hear nurses whispering, security guards coordinating against persistent reporters, and somewhere distant, a phone ringing with what were probably more board members demanding updates. But here, in this quiet room, none of that mattered. Jack leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're not alone. I won't let you go." Her fingers remained limp in his grasp, but he held on, watching the rise and fall of her chest, counting each breath like a prayer. The machines kept their vigil with him, their electronic beeps marking time in this suspended moment between crisis and whatever would come next. The harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital waiting room cast unflattering shadows across Jack's weary face. He slumped in an uncomfortable plastic chair, his worn jeans and rumpled dress shirt a stark contrast to the pristine white walls. Beside him, Lily's small legs swung back and forth, her purple sneakers barely touching the ground. Her favorite stuffed elephant, now squished tightly against her chest, showed signs of nervous fidgeting. "How much longer, Daddy?" Lily's voice was small, tired. They'd been there for hours, watching doctors and nurses hurry past without any news about Veronica. "I don't know, sweetheart." Jack rubbed his face, feeling the rough stubble under his palms. The events of the afternoon played on repeat in his mind. Veronica's pale face as she crumpled during the board meeting, the chaos that erupted, the ambulance sirens. Everything he'd tried to prevent had come crashing down anyway. A nearby TV mounted on the wall quietly played the evening news. Jack's stomach turned as he saw footage of himself carrying Veronica to the ambulance, her limp form cradled in his arms. The caption below read, "Billionaire CEO collapses, health crisis rocks Hale Industries." "That's not how it happened," he muttered, watching the sensationalized coverage. The reporters made it sound like a scandal, questioning Veronica's ability to lead, speculating about her condition. They didn't know her strength, her dedication, the way she'd light up when Lily showed her a new drawing. An orderly walked past, giving them a sympathetic glance. Jack felt out of place in this private wing of the hospital, reserved for the wealthy and influential. The chairs might be uncomfortable, but everything else screamed luxury. Original artwork on the walls, fresh flowers in crystal vases, marble floors that echoed with every footstep. "I brought you some hot chocolate," a kind nurse said, approaching Lily with a paper cup. "And coffee for Dad." "Thank you," Jack managed, accepting the steaming cup. His hands shook slightly as he took a sip. The coffee was actually good, not the usual hospital brew. Even that small detail reminded him of the gap between his world and Veronica's. Lily leaned against his arm, her small voice breaking through his thoughts. "Is Miss Veronica going to be okay?" Before Jack could answer, a commotion erupted at the entrance to the waiting room. A cluster of reporters had somehow made it past security, cameras flashing, microphones extended like weapons. "Mr. Lawson? What's your relationship with Miss Hale? Did you know about her condition when you saved her in the park? Are you using her illness to advance your position at the foundation?" Jack instinctively pulled Lily closer, shielding her from the chaos. But one reporter, a man with sharp eyes and an expensive suit, broke through the security guards trying to control the situation. He thrust his microphone directly in Jack's face. "Isn't it convenient that a nobody like you keeps showing up to save one of the richest women in America? The readers want to know, what's your angle? Fame? Money? A shot at her fortune?" The words hit Jack like physical blows. He felt the judgment in the reporter's tone, saw the suspicion in his eyes. The same doubts that had been gnawing at his own heart were now being broadcast for everyone to hear. I never." Jack struggled to find words, his throat tight. The coffee cup trembled in his hand. Security finally arrived in force, pushing the reporters back toward the elevators. But the damage was done. Jack sat there, shoulders slumped, feeling the weight of every stare, every whispered comment from the hospital staff. What was he doing here? He was a former volunteer firefighter, a widowed dad, living paycheck to paycheck. He didn't belong in this world of billion-dollar empires and media scrutiny. Veronica deserved someone who could navigate her world without stumbling, someone who wouldn't bring more complications to her already challenging life. "Maybe we should go home," he whispered, more to himself than to Lily. "We're just making things worse." But then he felt a small tug on his sleeve. Looking down, he met Lily's earnest brown eyes, so much like her mother's. She hadn't let go of her elephant, but her other hand gripped his arm with surprising strength. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice carrying more wisdom than her 8 years should allow, "you saved her once. You can help again." Jack stared at his daughter, feeling the simple truth in her words cut through his doubts. He remembered Veronica's laugh during their pancake breakfast, the way she'd opened up about her lonely childhood, how she'd stayed up late helping Lily with her science project even after a grueling day at work. The memory of finding her collapsed in the park that first day flashed through his mind. He hadn't hesitated then, hadn't worried about social status or media attention. He'd simply seen someone who needed help and acted. Lily's unwavering faith in him, reflected in those innocent eyes, began to wash away his fears. She was right. This wasn't about belonging to Veronica's world or fitting into some preconceived role. It was about being there for someone who needed support, just like any other human being. He squeezed Lily's hand gently, drawing strength from her simple, pure belief. The reporter's accusations and his own doubts still echoed in his mind, but they no longer held the same power. His daughter's words had reignited something essential within him, the understanding that sometimes the most important thing was just showing up, being present, and offering whatever help you could give. The morning sun filtered through the towering glass windows of Hale Industries' main conference room, where Jack stood before a gathering of employees. His hands trembled slightly as he gripped the edge of the polished wooden podium, but his voice remained steady. The room was packed with faces he'd come to know over the past weeks. Department heads, project managers, and dedicated staff who'd worked alongside Veronica for years. "I know I'm the last person who should be standing here," Jack began, his simple honesty cutting through the tension. "A few months ago, I was just a dad taking a morning jog with his daughter, but life has a way of putting us exactly where we need to be." Sarah Chen, the head of charitable operations, sat in the front row, her usually pristine appearance showing signs of strain. Next to her, Marcus Thompson from Legal Affairs listened intently, his tie loosened, a rare sight for the usually formal attorney. "The board thinks Veronica's illness makes her weak," Jack continued, his voice growing stronger. "They see numbers, risks, and liabilities. But what they don't see, what they choose not to see, is the heart of this company." He pulled out a thick folder from his worn leather briefcase. "In the short time I've been here, I've seen something extraordinary. This isn't just about profit margins. It's about the children's hospital wing Veronica funded last year." He held up a photo of smiling kids in hospital beds. "It's about the scholarship program that's sending 50 first-generation students to college." The room stirred, heads nodded in agreement. Jack could feel the energy shifting. "Yesterday, I sat with my daughter Lily in that hospital waiting room." Jack's voice cracked slightly. "She asked me why some people wanted to hurt Miss Veronica. I couldn't give her a good answer, because there isn't one." Patricia Rodriguez, who'd worked as Veronica's executive assistant for 15 years, wiped a tear from her eye. She'd seen firsthand how Veronica had transformed from a ruthless corporate player to someone who used her power to make real change. "The board sees Veronica's compassion as weakness," Jack continued, his voice rising with conviction. "They think her heart condition makes her unfit to lead. But I've seen her work through pain to help others. I've watched her sit with my 8-year-old daughter, listening to her stories like they were the most important things in the world." He spread out documents across the podium. "These are the initiatives Veronica planned for the next 5 years. Affordable housing projects, environmental cleanup efforts, educational programs in underserved communities. This is her vision, not just for profits, but for progress." The room had grown completely silent, every eye fixed on Jack. "I'm asking you today, not as an employee, but as someone who believes in what Veronica has built, to stand with us. The board is counting on our silence. They're betting we'll stay quiet while they dismantle everything she's worked for." Marcus Thompson stood up first, straightening his tie. "The board doesn't have as much legal ground as they think. I've reviewed the bylaws. If we present a united front, they'll have to listen." Sarah Chen rose next. "My team will compile impact reports from all our charitable initiatives. We'll show them the real-world consequences of their actions." One by one, others stood. Department heads pledged their support. Project managers offered their resources. Even the maintenance staff, standing along the back wall, nodded their commitment. "We need to act fast," Jack said, feeling a surge of hope. "Veronica's surgery is scheduled for tomorrow. While she fights for her life, we'll fight for her legacy." Patricia stepped forward, her voice firm despite her tears. "I have 15 years of documentation. Every decision, every success, every life we've changed. They want numbers. I'll give them numbers they can't ignore." The next hour became a whirlwind of action. Teams formed spontaneously. Marcus and his legal staff huddled in one corner, drafting documents. Sarah's team spread out across tables, organizing impact data. IT specialists began gathering digital evidence of the company's achievements under Veronica's leadership. Jack moved between groups, connecting ideas, offering encouragement, and keeping everyone focused on their shared purpose. He saw determination in their eyes, a fierce loyalty to the woman who had led them with both strength and heart. Later, as the sun began to set, Jack found himself on the building's rooftop terrace. The city sprawled before him, a maze of lights and shadows. The same view Veronica must have looked at countless times, weighing decisions that affected thousands of lives. The door opened behind him, and Patricia joined him at the railing. "You did good today," she said softly. "Veronica would be proud." Jack stared at the horizon, where the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in shades of pink and gold. "I just hope it's enough." "It's more than enough," Patricia assured him. "You've given us something to fight for, not just Veronica, but everything she stands for." The weight of responsibility settled on Jack's shoulders as he gazed at the city's skyline. Somewhere in that urban landscape, Veronica lay in a hospital bed, unaware of the battle being waged in her name. He had become her voice, her defender, when she couldn't speak for herself. The gentle evening breeze carried the sounds of the city up to where he stood. Traffic, distant sirens, the steady pulse of urban life. Below him, in the offices of Hale Industries, dozens of people were working late into the night, united in their mission to protect what Veronica had built. Jack placed his hands on the cool metal railing, feeling the solid strength of it beneath his fingers. The same strength he would need for the fight ahead. In the gathering dusk, the city's lights began to twinkle like stars, each one representing a life Veronica's work had touched, each one worth fighting for. The hospital corridor felt endless, its white walls stretching into forever. Jack sat in one of the hard plastic chairs, his shoulders tense as he watched the closed doors of the operating room. The red surgery in progress light glowed steadily above, a constant reminder of what was happening behind those doors. Lily curled up against him, her small hand clutching his larger one. She had insisted on staying, refusing to go home with their neighbor Mrs. Peterson. "I want to be here when Miss Veronica wakes up," she had said with that unwavering certainty only children possess. Sarah Chen, Veronica's executive assistant, paced the corridor, her heels clicking against the linoleum floor. Two board members who had stayed loyal to Veronica, Robert Martinez and Diana Woods, sat nearby, speaking in hushed tones. The small group formed a protective circle, keeping away the reporters who had tried to sneak onto the floor. "The surgery could take up to 8 hours, Dr. Thompson had explained earlier. "We need to repair the damaged heart valve, and there are complications we need to address." 8 hours. Jack checked his watch again. Only 3 had passed. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was small and sleepy. "Tell me again about when you first met Miss Veronica." Jack smiled despite his worry, running his hand over his daughter's hair. "Well, sweetheart, we were jogging in the park that morning, remember? You were skipping ahead of me, talking about wanting chocolate chip pancakes. And then we saw her by the fountain," Lily continued, knowing the story by heart now. "She looked like a princess, even when she was sick." "That's right." Jack's mind drifted back to that moment. The elegant woman in her tailored suit, crumpled on the ground. How his old firefighter training had kicked in without hesitation. The feel of her delicate wrist as he checked for a pulse. Sarah stopped pacing long enough to bring them all coffee from the vending machine. "She's the strongest person I know," she said, handing Jack a steaming cup. "If anyone can get through this, it's Veronica." Jack nodded, grateful for the warmth of the cup in his hands. He remembered their dinner that first night, how Veronica had seemed so out of place in his modest kitchen, yet somehow perfectly at home. The way she had laughed at Lily's jokes, genuine and unguarded. How different she was from the Ice Queen the media portrayed. More memories flooded in as the hours crawled by. The community event where she had gotten paint all over her expensive blouse while helping Lily with art projects, not caring a bit about the mess. Their dance at the gala, where she had felt so right in his arms. The quiet Sunday morning when she joined them for pancakes, burning hers completely but eating them anyway with a smile. Lily eventually dozed off, her head resting in Jack's lap. He draped his jacket over her like a blanket, wondering if Veronica would ever share more mornings with them, more burnt pancakes and silly games and quiet moments that made his heart feel full. "Mr. Lawson?" Robert Martinez's voice broke through his thoughts. "I wanted you to know what you did, standing up for her at the office. That took real courage." Jack shook his head. "I just told the truth. Veronica's built something amazing at Hale Industries. The foundation helps thousands of people. The board needed to remember that." "Still," Diana Woods added, "you reminded us all what really matters. Numbers on spreadsheets don't mean anything compared to real human lives." The surgery light continued its steady glow as dawn approached. Jack's back ached from the chair, but he didn't move, not wanting to disturb Lily. His thoughts kept circling back to all the things he hadn't said to Veronica. How she had brought color back into their lives after years of just getting by. How Lily's eyes lit up whenever she visited. How his own heart seemed to beat stronger when she was near. The first rays of sunlight were just beginning to peek through the windows when the surgery light finally went dark. Everyone sat up straighter, fully alert despite their exhaustion. The double doors opened, and Dr. Thompson emerged, still in his surgical scrubs. His face was tired, but Jack's heart leaped. He was smiling. "She made it," the doctor said simply. The surgery was successful. A collective breath of relief filled the corridor. Lily stirred at the sudden movement, blinking sleepily. "Is Miss Veronica okay?" "Yes, sweetheart," Jack whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "She's going to be just fine." The news spread quickly among their small group. Sarah wiped tears from her eyes while making calls to inform key staff members. Robert and Diana shook hands with the doctor, asking technical questions about recovery time and next steps. But Jack just sat there, holding Lily close, letting the words sink in. She made it. She was going to be okay. They would have more time, more pancake breakfasts, more laughs, more chances for all the words he needed to say. The dawn light grew stronger, washing away the shadows of their long night of waiting. Soon, they would be able to see her, to assure themselves that she was really on the mend. But for now, Jack simply held his daughter and whispered a quiet thank you to whatever force had brought Veronica into their lives and kept her there. "Can we make her get, well, cards?" Lily asked, already planning ahead, "with lots of glitter?" "Of course we can, sweetheart," Jack replied, smiling at his daughter's unflagging spirit. "I think Miss Veronica would love that." Dr. Thompson approached them one more time. "She's being moved to recovery now. It will be a few hours before she's awake enough for visitors, but you're welcome to wait. She's going to need all of you during her recovery." Jack nodded, knowing they would stay as long as it took. The hard plastic chair didn't matter. The sleepless night didn't matter. All that mattered was that Veronica had made it through, and they would be there when she opened her eyes. The morning sun filtered through the hospital room's window, casting a gentle glow across Veronica's pale face. Her eyes fluttered open slowly, adjusting to the light. The steady beeping of monitors filled the quiet room as she became aware of warm pressure on both her hands. On her right, Jack sat in a chair pulled close to her bed, his larger hand carefully holding hers. Dark circles rimmed his eyes, evidence of sleepless nights spent watching over her. On her left, Lily had dozed off in another chair, her small fingers still wrapped around Veronica's other hand. "You're here," Veronica whispered, her voice rough from disuse. Her dark hair lay spread across the white pillow, making her look younger, more vulnerable than the powerful CEO the world knew. Jack leaned forward, his eyes bright with relief. "Where else would we be?" Lily stirred at the sound of their voices. Her eyes flew open, and a huge smile spread across her face. "Miss Veronica, you're awake!" She bounced in her seat, though she was careful not to let go of Veronica's hand. Veronica tried to smile, but her lips trembled. She blinked rapidly, but tears escaped anyway, rolling down her cheeks. "I thought." Her voice broke. She took a shaky breath and tried again. "I thought I would die alone. That's what I always expected, you know. To face everything alone." Jack squeezed her hand gently. "You're not alone anymore. You'll never be alone again. The doctors said you're going to be okay now," Lily added earnestly. "Daddy said your heart is fixed." Veronica turned her head slightly to look at Jack. "How long have you been here?" Since they brought you in?" Jack's voice was soft, filled with emotion. "I couldn't leave. I needed to be here when you opened your eyes." "But your work, Lily's school, none of that matters," Jack interrupted. "What matters is you." Fresh tears spilled down Veronica's cheeks. "Why? Why would you do this for me?" Jack stood up, still holding her hand. His free hand brushed away her tears with infinite tenderness. "Because I love you, Veronica. I think I've loved you since that first dinner at our house, when you laughed at Lily's jokes and didn't care that we only had cheap spaghetti to offer." Veronica's breath caught in her throat. She stared at him, searching his face. "Jack, you don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "I know this might not be the right time." "I love you too," Veronica interrupted, her voice stronger now despite the tears. "Both of you. You showed me what I've been missing all these years, focusing only on work and success. You gave me something I never thought I could have. A family." Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? Like a real family?" Veronica turned to her, managing a watery smile. "Yes, sweetheart. If that's what you want." "Can I?" Lily hesitated, looking at the bed. "Can I sit with you? I'll be really careful of all the tubes and things." Jack started to protest, but Veronica squeezed his hand. "It's okay. Please?" Carefully, Jack helped Lily climb onto the bed. The little girl settled against Veronica's side, mindful of the IV lines and monitoring equipment. Veronica wrapped her arm around Lily, holding her close. "I was so scared," Lily confessed in a small voice. "But Daddy said we had to be brave for you, like you're always brave." Veronica pressed a kiss to the top of Lily's head. "Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let people love us," she said softly. "I spent so many years being strong, never letting anyone close. I thought that's what made me successful, but I was wrong." She looked up at Jack. "Real strength is having the courage to open your heart, isn't it?" Jack sat on the edge of the bed, encompassing both of them in his presence. "That's what Sarah told the board, you know, about how your greatest strength was learning to lead with both wisdom and compassion." "The board," Veronica said, tension creeping into her voice. "I should—" "No," Jack said firmly. "The board can wait. Right now, you need to rest and heal, and we'll be right here with you." Lily snuggled closer to Veronica. "Promise you won't go away?" Veronica felt something shift inside her heart, not the physical heart that had just been repaired, but the emotional one she'd kept locked away for so long. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to imagine a future filled with love, with family dinners and weekend outings, with someone to share both her triumphs and her fears. "I promise," she whispered, holding Lily close with one arm while squeezing Jack's hand with her free one. "I'm not going anywhere." The morning sun grew stronger, filling the room with warm light. The monitors beeped steadily, marking each beat of Veronica's mending heart. In that moment, surrounded by the love of the family she never expected to have, Veronica finally allowed herself to believe in forever. Morning light streamed through the towering glass windows of Hale Industries headquarters. Veronica Hale stood in her private elevator, her hand clasped tightly around Jack's. Though she wore her signature power suit and heels, there was a new softness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "You don't have to do this alone," Jack reminded her, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. Lily, dressed in her favorite blue dress for the occasion, bounced on her toes between them. "You're going to do great, Miss Veronica. Everyone's going to be so happy you're back." The elevator doors opened to the executive floor, where dozens of employees lined the hallway. As Veronica stepped out, they burst into applause. Some had tears in their eyes, while others held welcome back signs. These were the same loyal workers who had stood by her during the crisis, who had believed in her vision when the board tried to push her out. Martha, her assistant of 15 years, rushed forward with a tissue in hand. "Welcome home, Miss Hale." Veronica's usual composed facade cracked slightly as she accepted the tissue. "Thank you, all of you. I wouldn't be here without your support." As they made their way to the boardroom, more employees emerged from their offices to greet her. Each one had a story: how Veronica had helped with medical bills for a sick parent, sponsored their child's education, or given them a chance when no one else would. Jack watched in amazement as person after person approached to share what she meant to them. The boardroom doors loomed ahead. Inside, 12 board members waited, the same people who had tried to use her illness to force her out. Veronica straightened her shoulders, the familiar steel returning to her spine. "Wait here," she told Jack and Lily. But Jack shook his head. "We're coming with you. Right, Lily?" "Right," Lily declared, with all the confidence of an 8-year-old who didn't fully grasp corporate politics. The boardroom fell silent as Veronica entered, flanked by Jack and Lily. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their leather chairs, avoiding direct eye contact. They had already voted to reinstate her leadership, but this meeting would set the tone for everything that followed. "Gentlemen," Veronica began, her voice strong and clear, "I understand your concerns about my health affecting the company's stability. But what you saw as weakness has become our greatest strength." She moved to the head of the table, where her chair had sat empty for weeks. "My illness taught me what truly matters. It reminded me why I built this company in the first place. Not just to make profits, but to make a difference." Several board members exchanged skeptical glances. Harrison, the most vocal opponent of her return, cleared his throat. The shareholders, Veronica cut in smoothly, "will be pleased to know that during my recovery, our employee satisfaction ratings hit an all-time high. Our charitable foundation has received record donations, and public trust in Hale Industries has increased by 30%. She gestured to Jack and Lily. "These two showed me that true leadership isn't about power, it's about people, about family, about building something that lasts beyond quarterly reports." The room fell quiet as her words sank in. Even Harrison looked thoughtful. "I'm not the same person who left this room on a stretcher," Veronica continued. "I'm stronger, and so is this company. Now, shall we discuss our new direction?" For the next hour, Veronica outlined her vision. More investment in employee welfare, expanded charitable initiatives, a new focus on sustainable practices. With each point, she demonstrated how these changes would ultimately benefit the bottom line while building a legacy they could all be proud of. By the time the meeting ended, even her strongest opponents were nodding along. As the board members filed out, several stopped to welcome her back personally. Later that afternoon, Veronica stood at a podium in the company's press room. Camera flashes lit up the space as reporters packed every available inch. Jack and Lily waited in the wings, watching proudly as she addressed the world. "3 months ago, I thought I was dying," Veronica began, her voice carrying clearly through the speakers. "Not just physically, but spiritually. I had lost sight of what matters most." The room hushed, captivated by this unprecedented vulnerability from the normally reserved CEO. "Then a miracle happened in a park," she continued. "A former volunteer firefighter and his daughter saved more than just my life that day. They saved my soul." She gestured for Jack and Lily to join her at the podium. Lily skipped forward, while Jack moved with quiet dignity to Veronica's side. "These are my heroes," Veronica announced, her voice full of emotion. "But they're more than that now. They're my family." Cameras clicked frantically as Lily threw her arms around Veronica's waist. Jack placed his hand on the small of Veronica's back, supporting her as always. "Hale Industries is entering a new era," Veronica declared. "One where we measure success not just in dollars, but in lives changed, in communities built, in hope restored." The reporter's hands shot up, eager for questions, but Veronica wasn't finished. "I stand before you today, not just as a CEO, but as someone who has been given a second chance. And I intend to use it well." The flash of cameras captured this moment, the powerful CEO with her guard finally down, the small family that had changed everything, and the promise of a future where business and compassion could walk hand in hand. The morning sun painted golden streaks across the park's winding paths. Dew still sparkled on the grass, catching light like tiny diamonds. Jack watched as Lily skipped ahead, her pink dress bouncing with each step, her laughter carrying on the gentle breeze. Beside him, Veronica walked slowly, her hand warm in his. She'd traded her usual business attire for comfortable jeans and a soft blue sweater. The surgery scar was hidden, but Jack knew it was their reminder of how close they'd come to losing everything. "Look, Daddy," Lily called out, pointing to a cluster of yellow daisies. "They're just like the ones we saw that day." Jack squeezed Veronica's hand. They both knew exactly which day Lily meant. The memory was forever etched in their minds, the day that changed all their lives. Right here, by this very fountain. "Can we sit for a while?" Veronica asked, gesturing to a nearby bench. Though she'd recovered remarkably well, she still tired easily. Jack nodded, guiding her to the wooden seat while Lily gathered a handful of daisies. The fountain bubbled peacefully behind them, its spray creating tiny rainbows in the morning light. An elderly couple walked past, smiling and nodding in recognition. These days, most people knew their story: the billionaire CEO, the former firefighter, and the little girl who brought them together. "Remember when you saved Miss Veronica, Daddy?" Lily plopped down between them, carefully arranging her flowers. "I was so scared, but you knew just what to do." "Your daddy is very brave," Veronica said, running her fingers through Lily's hair. "He saved my life in more ways than one that day." Jack felt his cheeks warm. "We all saved each other, I think." He watched as Lily began weaving the daisies into a crooked crown, her tongue poking out in concentration. A comfortable silence fell over them, broken only by the splash of the fountain and distant birdsong. The park was coming alive with morning joggers and families pushing strollers. Jack remembered countless mornings here with Lily, after losing her mother, how this place had been their sanctuary. "There!" Lily announced, holding up her finished flower crown. She stood on the bench and carefully placed it on Veronica's head. "Now you look like a real princess." Veronica laughed, adjusting the slightly lopsided creation. "Thank you, sweetheart. It's beautiful." Lily's expression suddenly turned serious, her big brown eyes moving between Jack and Veronica. She fidgeted with the hem of her dress, the way she always did when something important was on her mind. "What is it, honey?" Jack asked gently. "Well?" Lily's voice grew soft, almost shy. "Does this mean you're my family now?" The question hung in the air, simple yet profound. Jack felt his throat tighten with emotion as he watched Veronica's eyes fill with tears. Without hesitation, Veronica pulled Lily into a tight embrace. The flower crown slipped slightly, but neither seemed to notice. "Yes, sweetheart," Veronica whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Forever." Lily's face lit up like sunshine breaking through clouds. She threw her arms around Veronica's neck, nearly knocking them both off balance. Jack steadied them, his own eyes growing misty at the sight. "I always wanted a mommy again," Lily confessed into Veronica's shoulder. "Daddy did too, even though he didn't say it." Jack swallowed hard, remembering all those lonely nights, all those times he'd wondered if he was enough for Lily. Now, watching the two most important people in his world hold each other, he knew that sometimes life's greatest gifts came disguised as its greatest challenges. "I always wanted a family," Veronica admitted, wiping her eyes carefully. "I just didn't know it until I met you both," Lily beamed, bouncing on her toes. "Can we get ice cream to celebrate? Please?" "Ice cream? At 9 in the morning?" Jack raised an eyebrow, trying to sound stern but failing miserably. "Why not?" Veronica stood up, straightening her flower crown with dignity. "I think this calls for ice cream. And maybe pancakes after?" "Yes." Lily clapped her hands. "Daddy makes the best pancakes in the whole world." "That he does," Veronica agreed, giving Jack a look that made his heart skip. They rose from the bench together, Lily immediately grabbing both their hands. The morning sun had risen higher now, warming their faces as they started down the path. Their shadows stretched long behind them, 3 figures linked together, moving as one. Just before they reached the park exit, Lily tugged their hands to make them stop. "Wait! Make a wish at the fountain! That's what you're supposed to do!" "I don't need to make a wish," Veronica said softly, gazing at Jack and Lily. "I already have everything I ever wanted right here. What would you do if you were in their place? Comment your answer below, and let's see how you'd rewrite the ending. If you enjoyed the story of Jack Lawson, I hand-picked the next story that you will enjoy. Please don't miss this one. Click here to watch it.